Emma Walker stood on the edge of the frontier with nothing but a fading memory of her family and a fire of survival barely burning inside. The epidemic had taken her mother first, then her brother, and when she buried her father with trembling hands, she promised his grave that she would live, no matter how cruel the world became. As she walked, her tears dried into salt on her cheeks, and her heart learned to turn pain into strength. She wasn't just leaving her town, she was leaving her old self behind. But the wind warned her, the Wild West didn't welcome the broken. It devoured them. The land stretched endlessly before her, golden during the day, silver and deadly at night. The sky was vast but felt like a ceiling coming closer every day. Hunger clawed at her stomach, and thirst scraped her throat with every breath. She followed a weathered trail her father once spoke of, a path toward the northern ridge valley where life, work, and perhaps redemption waited. She spoke to his memory when she felt weak, repeating his words, "Pain is not the end, Emma, it's preparation." With each step, she began to believe it. Or at least pretend to, because pretending was all her strength allowed. Soon she reached the ghost town of Ashwater, silent as a graveyard, except for creaking doors moved by wind like unseen fingers. Emma entered cautiously, scanning for food or danger, knowing either could appear at any moment. Suddenly a figure stepped out of the shadows, a man with eyes carved from thunder. He warned her not to trust anyone in this town, including him. His name was Colt Avery, a tracker known for finding people, or hunting them. He asked her where she was headed. Emma studied him, afraid but determined, and said, "North." Colt narrowed his eyes. "North is where hope goes to die." Instead of walking away, Colt invited her to eat from his campfire. She accepted, but fear sat beside her like a third companion. He asked about her past, and she noticed he listened without judgment, the rarest quality in the West. But the silence that followed felt heavier than any confession. Finally, Colt spoke of the frontier gangs, men who controlled the trails, extorted travelers, and disappeared anyone who resisted. Emma felt fear rising again, but when she looked at Colt, she saw something familiar, a wound hiding behind his calm. She wondered if he wasn't just guiding her, but looking for his own path to redemption. As they traveled together, Emma slowly learned that the West was not empty, it was listening. Coyotes tracked them at night. Vultures traced circles above them, expecting a feast soon. Emma grew stronger each day, not because she was fearless, but because she learned to move despite fear. Colt trained her to shoot, to fight, and most importantly, to read signs others would miss. But even as she learned, she sensed something deeper holding Colt back. A memory. A secret. He had saved her, but she began to wonder if he was trying to save himself. One night, by a lonely fire under a blood-red sky, Colt finally spoke. His family was killed by frontiersmen when he failed to protect them. Since then, he hunted these men, hoping revenge might break his curse. Emma listened in silence, feeling a surge of empathy. Pain recognized pain. She told him about her own losses, and for a moment, the frontier didn't feel cold. They had created a small island of warmth against its cruelty. But survivors don't get to rest. The next morning, Colt saw fresh hoofprints on the trail, big, heavy, armed riders. Watching, waiting. By the seventh day, the air felt wrong, like the earth itself was holding its breath. Colt insisted they take a shorter but riskier route through the Devil's Spine Canyon. Walls on both sides towered like giants, shadows stalking their every move. Emma gripped her father's scarf and whispered a prayer she barely remembered. Near dusk, Colt suddenly stopped, eyes narrowed. "Someone's here," he said. A single rifle shot echoed through the canyon, and a bullet grazed his sleeve. Then came voices from above, the frontier reapers. Hunters of the West. And they had already chosen their prey. The canyon exploded into chaos. Colt pushed Emma behind a boulder as riders descended from the cliffs like wolves. There were too many to fight. Colt fired back but was quickly surrounded. Emma felt something awaken inside her, not rage, but purpose. She refused to lose someone again. With trembling hands, she grabbed a fallen revolver and fired at a rider from behind, saving Colt's life. He stared at her, not as a survivor now, but as a fighter. But survival came with a cost. As they fled deeper into the canyon, Emma realized the reapers weren't just chasing them, they were hurting them. Hours later, breathless and drenched in fear, they reached a dead end, stone walls rising into darkness. Trapped, Colt's injuries slowed him, and Emma knew time was slipping away. She tore cloth from her dress to stop his bleeding. He looked at her, voice weak. I won't make it. But you still can. Emma gripped his hand fiercely. I'm not leaving you. A distant whistle echoed. Torchlight appeared from two ends of the canyon. The reapers were closing in. Colt stood shakily and whispered, fight like you have nothing to lose, because that's when you realize what's truly worth saving. Suddenly, a second group of riders emerged, not reapers, but another faction. Their flag bore a lone star symbol. Colt looked shocked. They're bounty mercenaries, he said. They don't help people, they sell them. Their leader dismounted, a woman named Serena Blackthorn. Her gaze was sharp, calculating. She looked at Emma first, then Colt. You're surrounded, she said. But I don't kill for free. So tell me, what are you worth to me? Emma's heart pounded. This wasn't just life or death. This was negotiation, with wolves. Colt stepped forward, willing to sacrifice himself. But Emma spoke first, voice steady despite fear. We're not worth killing. We're worth leading. Serena paused, intrigued. Emma continued, let us reach the northern ridge. There's land, opportunity, a future. Help us, and become part of it. Colt looked at her, stunned. Serena studied Emma with predatory curiosity. Then she said, hope is the most dangerous thing in the West, because if you give it to the wrong people, they might start believing they deserve more. Emma didn't flinch. That was the first time Serena smiled. Serena offered a deal, but it felt like choosing between two fires. She would take them to the northern ridge, but only if Emma could prove she was strong enough to lead others, not just herself. Emma agreed without hesitation, but Colt knew this challenge could kill her. That night, Emma stood alone by the silent canyon, staring at the stars. She felt the weight of every life she had lost, and every life she might now be responsible for. She had started this journey to survive. But now, she was walking towards something bigger. Something dangerous. Something powerful. As morning came, Serena approached Emma. If you want the ridge, prove you deserve it. Emma thought she meant a test of strength. But Serena pointed to the horizon. A dust cloud rose, riders approaching. Reapers. Twice as many. Coming fast. Serena smirked. Your test starts now. Colt whispered, they'll kill us all. Emma's eyes hardened. Then we don't run. We stand. And for the first time since her family died, she didn't feel alone. She felt ready. The dust storm approached like an angry wave, and Emma could see the reapers' silhouettes cutting across the horizon. Colt limped beside her, still bleeding, but his eyes burned with determination. Serena's riders flanked them, ready for the confrontation. Emma gripped her revolver and tightened her scarf, her heart hammering not with fear but with resolve. She had survived hunger, thirst, and the wilds, but now survival meant strategy, courage, and leading the battle with every ounce of strength she had left. The northern ridge was close, but so was death. The reapers charged with terrifying speed, shouting names of people they had already slaughtered elsewhere. Emma's first instinct was to run, but she remembered Colt's training and her father's words. She positioned herself on higher ground, using the rocks to her advantage, picking targets one by one. Colt fired beside her, covering her back, their teamwork forming almost a silent rhythm. Even in the chaos, Emma noticed patterns in the enemy, how fear spread among them faster than bullets. She whispered to herself, this is more than survival. This is reclaiming life. The first wave of reapers fell, but the second came faster, stronger. One managed to grab Colt, pulling him toward the canyon edge. Emma's world froze for a heartbeat, then snapped into clarity. She launched herself at the attacker with a precision born of desperation, striking him with Colt's dropped knife. Colt stumbled free, blood still seeping from his arm. Together, they pushed forward, side by side, their bond now forged in fire. The reapers hesitated, sensing the strange unity between the two. They weren't just survivors. They were a force. Serena's riders circled the battlefield, watching silently. She had promised aid, but she was evaluating. Emma realized this was more than a fight for life. It was a test of leadership, courage, and the ability to inspire loyalty in chaos. Emma shouted commands, directing Colt and a few captured reapers to secure the canyon's exits. Her voice carried authority it had never had before, and strangely, it worked. Even the reapers felt a sliver of respect, or fear. Either way, it gave them leverage. Emma's confidence began to radiate, and the tide of the battle shifted incrementally toward survival. Hours felt like days as bullets and dust mixed in a suffocating storm. Colt fell twice. Emma pulled him up both times, refusing to let despair touch him, or her. The Reaper's morale broke when one of their own screamed in panic. Emma seized the moment, using fire from a nearby boulder to scare the rest into retreat. The canyon echoed with shouts, gunshots, and the occasional roar of wind, but slowly, the enemy fled, leaving Emma, Colt, and Serena standing victorious in the silence. The battle was won, but the war of survival was not yet over. Serena dismounted, walking toward Emma. "You led them," she said. "You stood where others would have fallen. You survived, yes, but more than that, you commanded life." Emma's legs trembled from exhaustion, yet her spirit soared. Colt watched, pride and relief mingling in his eyes. Serena extended her hand, not in violence, but respect. Emma took it, feeling an unspoken acknowledgement. The West could break people, but it could also forge legends. Emma realized she had become more than a survivor, she was a leader, ready to claim her future. With the Reapers gone, Serena offered them a final choice: join her riders for protection and passage to Northern Ridge, or continue alone. Emma glanced at Colt, who shook his head slightly. "We've walked too far to rely on anyone else," he murmured. Emma smiled, nodding. They would finish the journey on their own terms. But now, armed with confidence, experience, and each other, they were unstoppable. The Northern Ridge was no longer a distant dream, it was a tangible goal, shimmering faintly in the morning sun beyond the canyon walls. The climb toward Northern Ridge tested them like never before. Emma scaled jagged rocks with Colt supporting her when she faltered. Every step forward was a victory over the Wild West itself. Wild animals, harsh weather, and steep cliffs all challenged their determination, yet each obstacle made them stronger. Emma's hands were scarred, her face windburned, but her spirit had never been sharper. Colt, too, seemed renewed, not just surviving, but finally believing there could be more to life than regret and revenge. Together, they moved as one force, unstoppable and resolute. When they finally glimpsed the ridge at dawn, a sense of awe overtook them. The valley stretched endlessly, fertile and untouched by the chaos they had endured. Emma's chest tightened with emotion. This place was more than land, it was a symbol of hope, rebirth, and all the battles they had survived. Colt turned to her, eyes glistening. "We made it," he said simply. Emma laughed, a sound of pure relief and triumph. "We did more than make it, we conquered it," she replied, embracing the victory born of pain, determination, and sheer will. As they settled into the valley, they discovered settlers struggling to survive, families abandoned, small communities broken by previous Reaper raids. Emma and Colt decided to help, sharing knowledge, protecting them, and turning the Northern Ridge into a sanctuary. Emma's leadership inspired others, and slowly, the valley began to flourish. From tragedy had sprung a community, from survival a purpose. Emma realized her journey was never just about herself, it was about transforming the West, one life at a time. But the West was never without danger. Rumors of Reapers regrouping reached them, threatening the fragile peace. Emma, Colt, and their newfound allies trained diligently, prepared for what might come. But the fear that had haunted Emma for so long no longer controlled her. She had learned the hardest lesson: survival is only the beginning, courage creates destiny, and hope, once found, is the fiercest weapon of all. Northern Ridge was safe, for now, but its guardians had been forged in fire, unbreakable. Months passed. Crops grew, families rebuilt, and the once dead valley hummed with life. Emma and Colt stood atop a hill overlooking the settlement, their hands intertwined. The horrors they had faced seemed almost unreal, replaced by a profound satisfaction. They had not just survived, they had transformed the Wild West into something worth living for. Emma looked at Colt, gratitude and love flooding her heart. "We came here broken," she whispered. "And yet, we're whole." Colt smiled, finally free of his past shadows. Whole, yes, but stronger than ever. The valley had become a haven, attracting people seeking refuge from the chaos of the frontier. Emma led with wisdom, courage, and a heart tempered by loss. Colt remained her steadfast partner, not just in survival, but in rebuilding a future that was brighter than they had ever imagined. The Wild West still raged outside their borders, but Northern Ridge became a beacon, proof that even in a cruel land, hope could thrive, and those brave enough could rewrite their destiny. Emma's tears now were of joy, not sorrow. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of gold, Emma stood at the edge of the valley, Colt by her side. She reflected on the journey, the epidemic, the death, the reapers, the storms, and the betrayals. Everything had led to this moment. The pain had not been in vain. The struggles had forged strength, the fears had nurtured courage, and the loss had created empathy. Northern Ridge was alive, not just in land, but in spirit. And she knew, deep down, that the West could never break her again. Emma and Colt decided to stay, not just for themselves, but for the valley and its people. Together, they established a small settlement with laws, protection, and hope. Children played in the fields, farmers tended crops, and laughter replaced the cries of despair. The once harsh West had been tamed, not by conquest, but by resilience, love, and leadership. Emma's heart, once shattered, was now full. The journey had been brutal, but the destination was worth every scar and tear. Years later, Northern Ridge had grown into a thriving town, with Emma and Colt as its founding figures. Travelers spoke of the woman and man who had walked through death itself and emerged victorious. Stories of survival, courage, and hope spread far and wide. Emma often recounted the journey to new settlers, teaching them that the West would test them, but they could endure, prevail, and even prosper. Her life had become a testament. In the Wild West, strength, hope, and love could conquer all. And finally, one quiet evening, Emma and Colt stood on the hill once more, watching the valley bathed in the golden light of sunset. They held hands, smiling at the legacy they had created together. The storms, the reapers, the endless desert, they were memories now, not chains. Emma whispered, "We survived everything, and built something better." Colt nodded, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. The Wild West was still harsh, still wild, but for them, it had become a place of hope, love, and home. Their journey, once a fight for survival, had become a triumph of the human spirit.